Please, I noticed the class is not recorded and I'm unable.
I think it's recorded now. Can anyone hear me?
Please go ahead.
Hi, Mercy. Are you there?
You can go ahead.
Oh, great. Okay, so the learning objectives from this will be understand the life cycle. That will see where planning and execution sits within the full project life cycle. Also, plan with structure. We'll know how to define scope, how to decompose work, and estimate time, cost, and resources. We'll also learn how to schedule work, right? We build Gantt schedules and identify the critical part of a project. Also, how to execute effectively, how to mobilize teams, manage workflows, and deliver against the plan, which is basically what a project is about. Monitor and control. I will track our KPIs, manage change, and keep the project on course. Lastly, we'll be looking at manage risk and quality, anticipate problems, protect quality, and also budget and timeline. So we're going to look at the foundation of project management. Really, what is project management? I'll say that it's just an application of your own knowledge, your skills, and some tools and techniques to project activities in order to meet project requirements, right? You have a project. What are you really managing? Why are you there as a project manager? You're there to manage, you're there to see through how things you're there to give your knowledge expertise to manage people, to manage equipment, to manage the entire project in itself, right? And then you're going to know how to build like a scope document, your time, and your cost. These are the three important things that you should look at when managing projects, right? It says here that a project is temporary, unique, and progressively elaborate. So what are the project life cycles that we'll be looking at today? We have here initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. You can see here that we have the number 2 and 3 are highlighted differently because they are the engine room of delivery. If you don't have a plan, what really do you want to close out on a project? If you do not execute anything, what are you closing out on a project? Basically nothing. So planning and executing is very important on a project. Immediately you have the sense to initiate the project, the next thing you should get into is to plan that project and then you execute the project before you can then monitor. Of course, if you are not executing, if you are not implementing anything, there is nothing to monitor, right? So then after executing, you monitor and then you close out on that very project. So right, where planning and execution fit. This diagram that you're seeing on the screen is just showing how planning and execution works together. This was gotten from Claude AI. I'm mentioning Claude AI because that's what I use. You can use any kind of AI to build these things up and put in your information, but I'm mentioning Claude because that's what I use. So this diagram is simply just showing how planning and execution works together throughout a project lifestyle, right? So you can see this blue from the beginning. The blue signifies planning, while the orange signifies execution, right? You can see from the very beginning where we have initiating, you can see that the blue diagrams, the effort into it goes very, like it's so high. That's why you're planning you're defining your goals, you're creating budget, you're identifying risk, and you're assigning resources. That's why you can see from the beginning that the blue started on a high note, right? Then it comes down gradually because now we are executing the project, right? Every effort has shifted significantly to the execution phase. It has increased. You can see that the orange graph, right? It has increased significantly because we have put so much effort in executing now. Although planning doesn't stop while executing, planning still continues, but it is minimalized, like it is minimal, right? Sorry about that. It's minimal. So all the efforts, lots of efforts are put into executing the project. And then after execution, it goes down and then we close out the project because basically everything that we've set to plan, everything we set to do on that project, we've completed it and then we close out on that project. So planning sets direction, right? Planning makes you understand what exactly you want to achieve on this project. Execution creates value. This is where the bulk of resources are spent and deliverables actually get built, right? So on execution, you create value, you've gotten your achievement, what you plan to achieve on that project. You that is what you deliver during execution. Like I said earlier, they overlap. So planning still continues during execution. So they still work hand in hand, right? So planning versus execution at a glance. The blue is stating the planning phase. And during this planning phase, as a project manager, you ask yourself the questions: what, how, when, who, and how much are we putting into this particular project? What are the outputs? What documents would you need? You need scope document, your schedule document, budget, and your risk plan. You can, I'm trying to I'm trying to work on another system to see if I can pull up my cloud screen so that I can explain some of the way you can, you know, get this document from AI. But if you're on your system, you can simply just type Claude.com, or you just go to Claude AI on Google, on Safari, somewhere. You can put in scope document. I'm sure it's going to pull out a draft for you, and then you input some of this all the information you need regarding the particular project you're doing at the time. So you're going to need your scope document, schedule, budget, and your risk plan. Very important. Your mindset as a project manager to be to analyze, to estimate, and sequence. And these are possible key risks. You have optimism and missing details, right? So the execution phase, you have questions like, are we doing the work right? Are we aiming at what we plan to do? Are we getting things right? And your output should be your completed deliverables and results, right? These are the things that you've worked on, visible result that you're presenting for closeout to stakeholders on that project. And your mindset as a project manager to be to coordinate, to lead, and to deliver well. Key risks are drift, delay on the project, and possibly scope creep. We'll see more of scope creep as we journey on. So the planning phase. This is like the anatomy of a project plan. Basically, this is what your plan should contain. So we have 6 of them, which is scope, and it speaks to what will we deliver? What are we really delivering on this project? What do we want to deliver on this project? Your work breakdown. How does it break down? Do you want to put your project in phases, in capstones? You would state it clearly in your plan. You want to do this project, you want to assign it, you want to follow through with maybe let's start with a gap assessment, then we come to implementation proper, then we review. You have to state it clearly how you want to break them down. You also estimate, right? How long and how much effort. This is where we are talking about time and cost. Estimates talks about your time, how much effort, how much time are we putting into this particular project, how much are we spending on this project. And we have number 4 as schedule. Schedule is like your calendar. As a project manager in my organization, when we want to do something that we call a kickoff to kickstart a project, on the plan, right, we have somewhere where we put exact dates where we want project to last for. Like say we do from maybe June 1st to June 5th, we're going to do like a gap assessment, right? You're going to put the date clearly for every stakeholder to see. And then we'll go on to say, okay, from 8th to 13th, we're going to review this gap assessment, just like that, right? You're going to have a proper schedule. And then resources. Who are the people that will work on this particular project? What do these people need to deliver a great project? This is where resources come in. What are the equipment that you'll be needing? What are the things that you'll be needing to facilitate the project? As a project manager, this is top because resources, this is where most of your time goes into. This is the people you're basically managing, right? Then you go to risk and quality. What could go wrong? You should think ahead. You should know the possibly risk that could happen on that project. Quality assurance, you should, get your quality assurance cap on, not just managing people, not just managing the project. You are also checking to make sure that they deliver great quality to that project, right? So defining project scope. It is agreed that scope is the boundary of project, right? Everything that you want on that project, the things that you do not even want should be clearly stated in your scope document to avoid scope creep, right? When you have a clear scope statement, it's just very great for you. You don't have to have scope creeps, you don't have to start having to fixing your change log and all of those things, right? So a scope statement defines your objectives and deliverables for that project, your acceptance criteria, boundaries and constraints, also assumptions, right? So what is scope creep? Scope creep is basically some of these small changes that comes in when the project has begun, right? Once they start coming, they start compounding and they start, you're noticing that the what's the word now? The time that you're set to finish that project is going way beyond what you planned, right? That's because you're adding so many things that you had said from the very beginning that you will not add. So how can you guard against all of these things, right? Writing down your scope and getting it signed off by whoever needs to sign it or based on the project that you're doing, right? You need to sign off that document to be sure that, oh, I don't want to go back to put things here. Once that is done, yeah, yeah, you're one step away from avoiding scope creep. Defining what is out of scope. Also state it clearly from the beginning. What do you think is out of scope for this project? You also have to state that clearly. Yeah, it helps you to routing all changes through a change project. We also believe that, well, you can start a project and then changes come. Stakeholders are telling you that, oh, this should be put. Please, once you're doing that, you're also advised to put all of this change through your change process, right? Your change log, you should put everything inside and make sure that you're documenting all of them, right? So work breakdown structure, which is a WBS. This is um this is like a dashboard, right? That's when you want to start a project, you have a dashboard. You can put the name of the project at the top, following this where you can see projects, then what are the breakdowns you want to put this project into, right? You're going to put your project into design, build, test, and deploy, for example. So what are the things that you want to do in the phase of designing? You're going to have requirements put into this place, wireframes, and approvals. That is what sits in this phase. That is what you want to carry on from maybe 1st of June to 13th of June. This is what you're set to do. For build, right? Development to be done, integration and documentation will be in this phase. This is all that you would achieve in this phase. And then for test and deploy, you're going to do a quality assurance testing, you're going to do user training, and then you go live, right? In this place of maybe you want to create a website, you would go live. When it comes to maybe documentation for an organization, you submit all deliverables. This is what you're going to do in this phase of the project, right? So this is a work breakdown structure. So let's look at estimating time, right? Estimating time and effort in this slide. So looking at this whole analogous, parametric, 3 points, and the likes, this is important, right? Very important, because when you're trying to fix like a project together, you're trying as much as you can to be you're trying as much as you can to manage time, to manage costs, to put things in the right place, right? You're trying as much as you can not to go beyond what you've set to plan, right? So we're going to look at estimating. We have the analogous, we have the parametric, we have the 3 points, we have the bottom up, and we also have the PET estimate, which sits with the 3 points. So the analogous is just saying that, oh, compare a similar project. I've done a project before whereby that project took me like let's say 6 months, and then I have a new project again, right? And this same project is just like the first one that I'd done before. So what is the estimate for that project? I just use the analogous estimate to say, do you know what? This same project will take 6 months to do. So we're just going to walk through like that. Then for the parametric, you use this one uses like a unit rate quantity, right? To sum things up. You're going to say, okay, maybe in an organization, we have about 500 um we have about 500 what is it now? That like a 500 applications that we need to do. Yes, let's put it that way. We have 500 applications that we need to do, and we have about 50 of the we have about 50, what's it called now? I'm trying to look for the right word. We have about 50 staff to do it. No, we have like 500 applications to run, and we have 50 of these things to run alongside. We just have one staff. So we're going to do like 500 divided by 50, which is 10, right? So this is simply saying that that project is going to, that person, that's the person in the organization, that's the staff, is going to do like um 50 documents in 10 days for the applications. So altogether, when you sum it up together, you have 500 applications to be done in 10 days, right? And for the 3 points, we have the blend optimistic, like most likely, and we have pessimistic estimates, right? So this is a length where you're going to say, okay, the optimistic says that
Please, can anyone still hear? Hmm. All right. Okay. We are sorry for that. Please permit us to get her back on the call. We are sorry for that. It's network glitch. Please, we are sorry for that. We are still trying to get her back on the call. She was knocked out by the network.
can anyone hear me? I don't know. It was like someone logged me out of the call, and then I was unable to unmute at some point. Can anyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. I think it's your network. Welcome back.
Okay, I'm so sorry for that. I was on the call for a while, but I couldn't hear anyone, and I was unable to unmute myself. Okay, I would share my
Okay,
screen
Jumoke,
again.
please, you have a question. You can check the chat room.
Oh, okay. which is my importance to project success, a clear defined scope or strong. A scope or SAMA, a scope, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, but it's not the material.
Oh, wow. What about now?
All right, it's coming up. Yes, it's up.
Thank you. So I think I was here.
Please project it. Thank you.
I've done that. Is that fine?
Very well. You can go ahead.
All right. So I was saying that parametric had to do with use of a rate and quantity, right? And for the 3 points, we have optimistic, we have most likely, and we have pessimistic estimate, right? This optimistic says that, oh, everything goes on perfectly, while most likely says, okay, normal situation, and pessimistic says, oh, problem occurs. So let's take, for instance, also, while I'm explaining this, I'm also explaining the PET estimate, right? So the PET is program evaluation review technique, because this PET estimate sits with the 3 points, right? This formula you're seeing here, once I explain the 3 points, you'll be able to get it right, what the PET estimate is about, right? So let's assume that we have a project that we're running for, like, let's say we plan to have this project for a month. We'll just take, for example, for the optimistic, we would say, okay, let's say 4 days for this project. For what if anything happens, right? Maybe most situation, let's just normal situation, let's just say, however, this project might take like 6 days. Then for the pessimistic, you can say, if problem occurs on this project, or let's even assume that as a project manager, you've seen a risk, right? You're just saying, however way, even if problem occurs, we should be able to finish in like 10 days. This is more like a realistic estimate. That's what the 3 point estimate is about. It's more like a realistic estimate. You are putting into consideration everything that, if everything goes well, let's assume that yes, it goes well, we'll do 4 days. And then normal situation, maybe we have some glitch here and there. It shouldn't go more than 6 days. You're adding 2 days to it. And then, okay, let's even assume that we have issues here and there, problem occurs, let's do 10 days. Like, you're just being realistic, right, in this estimate that you're doing, right? So for the bottom up, this estimate each package and roll up most accurate. Let's just say that, okay, we've set to do a project, and we have design, we have development, and we have testing. Let's just say design, right? It will take 5 days. And for development, we have 15 days. Then for the testing and to go live, we have 4 days. You're putting it together, you're calculating everything together. 5 plus 15 plus 4. You're saying, oh, that's 24 days, right? Then this project should be able to work well for 24 days. It looks more accurate, and it's said to be like the most accurate thing to do. But you see most project managers working along with analogous, because it feels like, okay, I've done this before, and I think I can do it again on this project to achieve the same months or weeks that I've done it before, right? Also, we're going to look at scheduling and Gantt charts. This Gantt chart that we're seeing on the screen is just I call it like a project manager's calendar, like a visual timetable that just shows how work needs to be done, when work needs to start, and how long this project is going to last, right? So again, you can get this when you want to start a project. You can pull up this. I would also share at the end of I probably will share with Transformation College a slide where I'd put some important prompts that you can just type in on AI or cloud, right? That you can just type in to give you the exact kind of document that you are seeing here that can basically help you on any project. So this W1 to W8 that you're seeing on the screen is basically week 1 to week 8, right? And is explaining how each of these work packages will be delivered. We have requirements, we have design, we have development, integration, testing, and development. If you're looking at week one is saying, oh, we're going to be having requirements. Most likely it's a requirement gathering. You want to understand the environment of that project. It also goes into week 2, right? Design starts from week 2 to 3. This is where team members are planning the solution that they would work with. What this entire project is really about, how we're going to deliver the solution, what is the things that we need to deliver a great project, right? Then we come to development. You have a run through from week 3 to 5. This is basically where the core work is happening. This is where you're actually you're delivering products. If it's a website, you're working on product, you're already working through to see how things are going to work on that website. Maybe it could be like you're creating system or codes or something just around that line. But what is happening in development week is that you are producing, you are doing an actual product work on that, in that week, sorry. So integration, we have integration run through 4 to 6. Different parts of this project are connected together, as you can see on the slides. They are connected. There are some projects whereby you can't start a new phase until you finish another phase, right? But what is showing here just shows that this sometimes you are able to, still work on this particular phase and then still move into the next phase. Then you have your testing. This is where team members are checking through to make sure that, oh, are there any errors? Do we have everything in place? All that we've set to do, are we really doing them? You're going to look for, like, you're going to find bugs and then fix them basically in review. So it depends on the kind of project that you're doing. The kind of project that I do, we call it like a review session where we're trying to make sure that, okay, we've said we've done these documents, we've put it in place, and are we actually doing it? We fix everything that we need to fix in the testing phase, and then deployment. This is where your final product is delivered to users. In other words, you go live, right? You go live, you launch the website, you deliver the project. And the kind of project that I do, we deliver we submit our deliverables and we do like a closure sign off with our clients, right? This is what happens in the deployment phase, and this is exactly what this chart is explaining to us, right? So we have the critical path method, right? So this critical path, the orange part is telling you that these parts are very critical. Why the C, which carries procure, it's not like it's not important, but it is not as important as the ones that you can see on the top of this. These ones are very important. Like any little mistake that happens in that period is going to affect the entire project. So you're going to make sure that you're managing your critical part first, right? You're managing your critical part. You're doing the best that you can do in that part so that it doesn't affect the entire project, right? Procure is also important, right? It's also very important, but it's not just a critical part. It's just, we call it like a non-critical task, right? We call it a non-critical task. It's like saying that, oh, that you want to do something for 2 days. You can see underneath each of these things, you have start for 2 days, you have design for 4 days, you have build for 6 days, and then you have test for 3 days, deploy for 2 days. If you sum all of these things together, we have 17 days. In those 70 days are your critical days. Like you can't afford for the days to add another extra day to it. Let me put it that way. You can't afford that one of those 17 days you're really not delivering anything as you've said. But for procure, you have 3 days. Well, We can add one more day to it if something happens. We don't know. Maybe we send somebody to do something. Is less important than the five critical parts that is listed up in orange, right? So we have resource planning and allocation. These resources are the people, equipment, materials, and facilities that you need to deliver the work, right? So you have people who deliver, who bring in their skills, roles, and availability. Equipment like your tools, machinery, and facilities. Materials, physical input and supplies, then leveling. People is important. That's what you're really managing as a project manager, right? So let's look at this team utilization by role. This is simply saying that you see the project manager is on 90, meaning he or she is very busy, but he can still work, right? It's not overloaded. This person is still able to carry on with the work. We have testers 60. Oh, you can bring more work for this person to do. These testers, they do not have a whole lot to do at this time. Developer 110, that's overboard. You're over allocating. You need to fix it. You need to escalate. You need to fix what is going on there. If not, there can be an issue on that project. Your designer is on 85. We can still work with that. Same with the analyst, right? We can still work with all of those things. That's what this graph is explaining to us, which is very important. You don't overload people if you really want to achieve a great success on your project, right? So we have budgeting and cost planning. So the budget aggregates estimated costs in a time-phased baseline you can track spending against, right? So we're looking at cost baseline, contingency reserve, management reserve, and then cost control. So when you're starting a project, the first thing you should know is how much money will this project need? Where will the money be spent on? And you're making sure that you don't want to overspend, right? So this budget is like a financial plan that really shows exactly where money will go into. This donut chart that we're seeing on the screen is explaining where the money goes into. Of course, labor, this is where you have your project managers, the engineers that will be working on the project, consultants, technicians. So of course, it has to carry a whole lot of the amounts in the donut circle because you're going to pay salaries. You're going to you're going to pay wages. There's a lot of things going through in labor, right, that you have to put in consideration. You have materials where you have your cement, wood. So now we're taking, for example, that we're building an office, right? So you have your cement, wood, maybe office supplies. Some offices, maybe you want to install computers and the likes. This is where you're looking at materials and it takes a whole 22%, right? Then equipment, what are the things that we're bringing in? What are the maybe vehicles, maybe yes, vehicles, different things that you want to bring in to this particular project, tools, machines, construction equipment, licenses. This is where you consider all of those. Contingencies, very important for every project that you already have, like a cost plan. Always put a 10% contingencies in your project budgeting. Very important. You don't know, you also call it like an emergency money, right? Anything can happen. Anything can happen. It could be that you've priced something this week and you're going back to the market, they're telling you another price. Plan for it yourself as a project manager. Put it in the know that you need to add extra to this. And in project management, we call it like contingencies, right? We also have the overheads. This is where maybe you consider you need to accommodate a worker, internet access, electricity, and the likes. This is where you put it as 6%. It's called overheads. I hope that was explanatory enough. Yeah. So we're looking at risk planning. Risk is very important, and most times this brings it delays projects and it most times disrupts most project managers and project because you've not thought ahead, you didn't think ahead, you didn't even explain to yourself as a person what risk. He didn't think there was a risk that can go on that project, and it's not possible. For every project, there is a risk. There is a risk on every project. So you have to think ahead as a project manager, what could go wrong, right? You decide how you want to treat this risk from the very beginning. So if you look at the vertical axis of this graph that you're seeing, not graph, right? It's more like a diagram that you're seeing on the screen. It says likelihood, low, medium, high. So we're looking at likelihood from below. It says low, green, then medium says yellow, then high says orange. We're also looking at the horizontal axis, which is the impact, green, yellow, and orange also, right? So for the likelihood low says unlikely for that risk to happen. Medium says it might happen and it might not, right? And for high says it is very, very likely to happen. So let's take for instance, I have an outdoor event that I want to have this period that is really raining, right? I have an outdoor event and I'm wondering in my head, I'm saying to myself as a project manager, oh, what is actually the risk that rain might fall? It is high. For likelihood, it is really high, right? So what's the high saying? The high is saying it's very likely that rain would fall. What is the impact saying? The impact is saying like it's a serious problem if it does. So when we measure it, it's actually going to the fall on the red part, which is saying that, oh, there's a serious problem. So what are you supposed to do as a project manager? You need to plan before that event happens. You need to fix it. You need to make sure that things are probably done. You put it in place and be assured that, oh, that everything is going well so that you don't face a serious problem because that is what it's saying, right? Another example that we'll look at, like a second risk, is saying, okay, in that same event, right, bottled water, we'll run out of bottled water at some point. I think this bottled water will not be enough. What is the likelihood that it would affect? It's low, like it's really low, it's unlikely. It might be enough and it might not be enough, right? And it's fine. It's bottled water, right? So what is also the impact that we're looking at? It's low. It's a small problem. It's bottled water. We can always, if bottled water finishes, we can always just run to a store nearby to get another bottled water, right? And if you measure it, it still comes back to the green box, which is low, meaning that risk is pretty low and so it's fine. What are you supposed to do as a project manager? You can just leave it. You've already, you accept it. It's fine. The contingencies reserved for it. We've already said, oh, if such happens, we can just run to a, a store to get water. So 4 ways to respond to your risk is avoid it. You can avoid your risk, right? Change the plan to remove the risk entirely. Maybe somewhere we want to start with a new technology and the people you are presenting this technology to at the moment are not so great about it. Just use the one that you're using before. If that works, use a proven technology that you're using, that you've been using before. Just use something to avoid the risk on that project, right? You can also transfer your risk like insurance. Imagine if I not insure my car, there's an accident occurs, it comes to me. But because I already thought about it, way just immediately I bought the car, or way even before I bought the car, then I'm going to transfer my risk and get an insurance. You can mitigate, right? You have maybe a network issue. Look for a backup network provider that you're going to work with. Do something, mitigate it before you get on that project. Then you can also accept a risk. Maybe like a supplier is supposed to deliver something to you today, and then they're telling you that, oh, they can't bring it today, they can bring it next week. Keep extra time in your schedule. As a project manager, the schedule sits with you, so it's fine. You can always make room for that in your calendar to say, oh, the person will not come today, the person will come later, and that's fine too, right? So you can accept your risk. So communication and quality planning. Communication plan is very important. As a project manager, you should not take this lightly. Who are the people you need to communicate with? How do you want to put this information out to them? How often do you want to communicate? right? Like your stakeholders and on the audience map, reports, meetings, and dashboard. You need to have all of these things in place. You need to have them ready for your plan, for your communication. Frequencies and escalation paths. How do you want to escalate issues? How do you want to how do you want to send out your reports? How do you want to have meetings, right, with your stakeholders, even your team members, right? Quality plan, the standard the deliverables must meet, and how quality will be assured and controlled. Your acceptance to criteria and standards, quality assurance activities. As a project manager, you just don't manage people. You also do like a quality assurance, right? You wear your quality assurance cap. You are going around to make sure things are well done. Because guess what? Once you don't do all of these things, if the project fails, it comes back to you as a project manager, and you're wondering where things got wrong. It's because you didn't do like a great quality assurance on that project. You also inspect and then testing checkpoints. All of these things will require you to give a quality plan, and you should have all of these things documented already. So let's look at the project plan. This is something that is integrated in one, right? So we have the scope baseline, you have your schedule baseline, you have your cost baseline, risk register, your communication plan, and then your quality plan. These are plans that you're going to work with in this phase, right? Now, let's look at the execution phase. So this phase is saying that what we've planned. So let's get into work. What are we really doing? Execution is where the plan meets reality, all the things that we've said we want to do. Now, let's get to do it. And yeah, he's saying the project manager shifts from designing the plan to leading the work and keeping it on track. Now you've done a successful plan, you've gotten your plan signed off. Let's move into the real work in itself. So you lead the team, you direct them, you motivate them, develop the people doing the work. Motivation is very important. It goes as small as, well done, I see you. Saying all of these things to your team members, you might think it's small, but it means a lot. It gives them, it dress them on. It makes them know that I am seen and I'm doing well. So with that, they want to do so much on that project. They want to deliver. When you call on them, they are willing to answer to you, because this is somebody that even when I do a little bit, she makes it seem like I've done a lot. And that's what people want, right? You do it genuinely, right? So you also manage the work, assign tasks, manage workflow, and remove blockers as a project manager. Assure quality. I said earlier that you wear your cap of quality assurance. Some organizations, some project space, you have a quality assurance person separately. So once your own as a project manager is just to lead, while the quality assurance team does their own quality assurance. But in cases where you do not have such, you do the quality assurance yourself. In my own organization, I do the quality assurance activities myself alongside other project managers, right? So you assure quality of that project. You engage stakeholders, communicate progress, and manage expectations properly. You monitor progress, measure performances. There are loads of tools that you can use in measuring this thing, which I've showed. Again, if you're on your system and you can pull up claude.com, you can just type in monitor progresses tools that you can use for project manager. It will bring up a couple for you, and you choose and put in your information so that you can manage this project properly. Control change, process change request, and keep scope under control, right? You have a change request document, you have a change request form. If you're done with your scope, you're done with your scope document, it's signed off. But one way or the other, as change is inevitable, right? You want to just pull in something. You have a change control document that you need to state clearly and document what change and why that change is necessary to happen, right? So yeah, we have leading and managing the team. Plans don't deliver projects, right? Resources do. People in particular, they do. So during execution, the project manager is above all the leader. You're the one setting direction, you're the one building the team, you're the one clearing the path, right? So you're going to, in any project management, right? A project manager, your team members will face these 4 team development stages. Forming. This is maybe team members, they don't know each other. It's just a new start. You're just putting them together. As a project manager, you are supposed to lead them for direction. They'll be coming to you, so you have to lead them appropriately in the direction and structure of that project, right? So we're going to look at storming. So storming is whereby there can be conflict within the team because they don't know each other from anywhere. They're just trying to understand each other. There can be challenges, boundaries, different things going on the project. But as a project manager, you would facilitate conflict resolution to maintain trust within your team members. You want to put them together. You want to make sure that even when there are issues, you are managing them properly. Norming is also where you have different team members trying to understand each other. Now they've gone through the first two. Now they are coming together. They get what it is that is happening. They can collaborate very well, and they are delivering great project already. Like the collaboration is visible and they are working very well. Performing is where they've now come together, everything is well done. Members are now motivated. As a project manager, you're motivating them. They are knowledgeable about this particular project that you've asked them to come and do. And with that, you're going to have like a very great project team, which will give you a successful project. So a PM's leadership job is to set clear directions and priorities. You're going to match tasks to strengths. You're going to remove blockers fast. You have some team members come to tell you that, oh, there's this issue that I don't know how to go about it. As a project manager, it sits with you to make sure you are removing those blockers as soon as possible. You're also going to give feedbacks and recognition to those that deserve the recognition, right? And also give feedbacks and report to stakeholders. You're also going to resolve conflict early enough on that project. So let's look at task execution and workflow. This workflow diagram is just showing us how tasks are being distributed, how your workflow is. We can do this on Kanban, can do this on Trello. So you're going to say to do, what are the things that I need to do? Draft API spec, set up CI, write test. What are the things that I've started and are in progress? You build login, design dashboard. That has started already. We're working on it. What are the review you want to do? Payments module. You're done with that and you need to review it. You need to check to make sure there are no errors. Yeah. Then all of these things stated under done, you are done. You're done with the project setup. You're done with the DP schema. They're done with wireframes. As you said in the earlier on in your work package, how you said you're going to distribute your work in phases, right? This you're going to also work with that same document to say, oh, my wireframe that I said I was going to do, yeah, I'm done with it. My test writing, it is still in to do. This is what I've set myself to do. This helps you, right, to work properly. It gives you a nudge ahead to the things that you are yet to do and those things that are in progress. It makes you track your team members, those that need to review the payments module. As a project manager, you are telling them, oh, please, you need to do a review first so that we can ascertain that this is done and we can move it to done, right? So let's look at monitoring and controlling. Monitoring and controlling, you're going to measure, you're going to compare, you're going to decide, and you're going to act on that decision, right? Collect actual progress, cost, and quality data. In comparing, you're going to check actuals against the baseline plan. You're going to decide, and then you're going to act on every of these things. So let's look at tracking progress, KPIs, and end value, right? This is just showing you whether your project is on schedule, the budget, the expected progress of a project, basically. That's what this is showing you, right? The blue is the planned value, the green is the end value, and the orange is the actual cost, right? So let me explain this graph, right? So this graph is just saying that for the For the planned value, we've said that that is the amount of work, right, that we are supposed to actually achieve. Let's use 3 months, for example. In 3 months, looking at the blue line, which is the planned value, we've said if this is supposed to be the work that we're supposed to complete in 3 months, then we are on 45%, right? We're on 45% of that particular project, which is okay. For green, the end value. The end value is supposed to be the amount of work that we've actually completed in 3 months. So if we're looking at the green from this diagram that I'm displaying, it's showing 35% instead of 45, right? According to how we've stated that it will be. Then we'll look at the orange, right? The orange line, which is the actual cost. This is showing how much money has actually been spent on that project. And from here, we can see that it is above the green line. This means that the money being spent here is over the value of what we've said we will do from the work completed. Right. So SPI, let me explain SPI. SPI means in this space is the schedule performance index. It has a formula that we'll walk through. CPI simply means cost performance index, and we have EAC, which is the estimate at completion. Right, for SPI, the formula for SPI is simply the end value divided by planned value. So let me give an example. You plan a work for maybe say 50, and then actual completed work is 40. When you use the SPI,
Hello, Jumoke. Hello.
yes, I can hear you.
Please, you should prepare to round up. You are eating
Yes,
into
yes,
another
yes.
person's time.
Yes,
Thank
I'll round
you.
up now. Sorry about that. Yes, so looking at this, since 0.8 is less than 1, project is behind schedule, basically. And if we're using the same thing for CPI, we'll say work completed is 4 million, money spent is 50 million. Since it's also below, is less than 1, we're going to just say the project is over budget, right? Why the EAC is just the estimate at completion of the project, right? Managing change issues and stakeholders. Like you can see here, this is the project, this is the control processes that we go through. Request, raise, assess impact, approve and update, right? The high influence, who are the people on stakeholders that you're supposed to keep certified, and then the ones that you're supposed to keep informed, right? So these are the common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Big scope. You need to write your scope and let it be clear enough, right? Optimistic estimate, poor communication, uncontrolled change, no real tracking. As a project manager, you should be tracking your project in real time, right? Regular KPI and end value reviews should be done. Overloaded team. You should not overload your team, right? Tools and software for PM. For scheduling, you have MS Project, you have Gantt Pro. For task and workflow, you have Trello, Jira, and Asana. For collaboration, you have Teams, you have Slack, you have Notion, and for reporting, you have Power BI and Smartsheet. So what are the key takeaways to take from this class? Make sure as a project manager, you plan before you build. Very important. You find the critical parts, measure and control well, decompose and estimate, break down, work with your this decompose and estimate is telling you how to break down your work, estimate honestly, and build in contingencies. Very important. Also, lead the execution and manage scope and risk properly. Right? Thank you so much. I'm sorry I had to eat into another person's time, but yeah, thank you so much for joining this class. Thank you, Messi.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. Thank you so much for a wonderful session. Please, do we have any question? We can take one or two. Please, do we have any question? We can take one or two. We are sorry for that. We are so sorry. Thank you so much, Jumake. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we are gradually drawing the curtain close for today's class.